let's get back to the Zoom, but we are not going to Abidjan this time. We are going to Accra. My very good friend, Sammy Bartels, is joining us on the Zoom. Sam, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Hi, Nathan. Good afternoon.
Your thoughts ahead of today's game. We're just sharing thoughts 2 years after Cameroon, where the Black Stars went into their third AFCON group game with their destiny in their hands. Now, it looks like the same scenario has repeated itself, but this time there's the added bonus of the Black Stars having to rely on other things to line up their way so they can even think of a round of 16 tickets to the next stage of the competition. Just your general thoughts on the situation the team finds itself in and what they can do to make it tonight.
Well, it's a familiar scenario, as you mentioned. We faced a similar scenario with Comoros. The actual fact, since 1992, when you look at the record of the matches we have faced, last group matches at AFCON, where was at stake, we have a 50% win rate. But of course, we have some very painful defeat among the other 50% losses. I'll just mention a few. 0-1 loss to Congo DR in 1998. The 1-2 loss to Zimbabwe in 2006, and the most recent being the 2-3 loss to Comoros in the 2021 tournament. The only time where the stakes were similar and we still managed to qualify was in the year 2000, when we lost the final group game 2-0 to Cote d'Ivoire, and all the teams finished with 4 points. But that scenario doesn't arise yet. As Chris said, the team knows exactly what to do, and it is to win and qualify. And anything less than that, and the team would not qualify for the next stage. Personally, I think the team is on an upward trajectory in terms of chances they are creating. The intensity was lower in the first game. There was more intensity in the game against Egypt. And if they can continue on that trajectory, then Ghana should be able to qualify. Offensively, I think we will score. Not least because Mozambique have never kept a clean sheet in 14 African Cup games. This is the 15th one, possibly. But like everybody else, the question that is being asked is, can the defense be alert enough over the course of the 90-plus minutes to avoid making mistakes? 1, and 2, we need a huge slice of luck, because when we lost against Comoros, we were unlucky enough to have a red card. And those are circumstances that you can't control.
I see. So you mentioned, of course, the circumstance that the team can't control. You mentioned the fact that they will have to stop conceding. Is this, when you look at things from an offensive perspective, is this a game where, for example, a player like Mohamed Kudus almost cements his reputation and becomes the outright star of the team? Do you think it's an occasion for him to get his reputation almost put at that level where we can now say, this is Mohamed Kudus' team, and we build a team around him going forward?
It is factually a Mohamed Kudus team. He scored 50% he was involved in 50% of our goals in qualifiers. By just playing one match, when you look at the stats, he's had more dribbles than anybody else, completed more offensive play than anybody else. He's had four attempts, with 2 of them going in. So it is a Mohamed Kudus team. His coming into the team transformed the offensive play and offensive statistics for Ghana in the last game against Egypt. But if I were sitting there as Mozambique and they are chalking off their checklist, their checklist for beating Ghana, the first thing obviously they will talk about is how to stop Ghana from scoring. And top of that list would be preventing Mohamed Kudus from scoring. 2 ways. You're either going to find a way to block him or to take him out completely, which is by causing an injury to him. And we know how these things work. You know, in 96, when Zambia ensured that Abid Pele will not play against South Africa in the quarterfinal stage. So this match and the dynamics of it is not just dependent on Kudus, but it's an opportunity for others that play off him to step up and get Ghana goals. Because Mozambique, just like anybody else, will know what the primary threat is and would make sure they put an extra man on Kudus, or they foul him at every turn in very safe areas to prevent him from doing the damage. And this is where the dependency on others come in. Okay. We've just simply not had enough goals coming from other people. You know, before the game against Egypt, the last 2 goals we had scored in AFCON was by a defender. Jiko had scored the goal against Cape Verde, and had scored the last goal against Comoros. So this is really the time for people to stand up and be counted, because of the uncertainties around the defensive errors. And for some reason, Chris's team seem to want to play out from the back when sometimes safety first is a better option. Because of those uncertainties, it would be unwise to want to grind this out as a 1-0 game, because you never know when you concede. That's why we need goals from other sources other than Kudus in this game.
All right, just finally, do you expect Chris Hughton to make some changes? Just looking at how the last game went, rumors of some player discontent, Danny Amate especially. Do you expect him to make some changes, or you think he'll stick to his guns and deploy a good chunk of the players you've seen in the last 2 games?
He probably has to resolve his frustration and the fans' frustration about Inaki Williams. Personally, I think Inaki plays, he provides more cover for Dennis Odoi and allows him to have a bigger impact on the team, because he's probably the most sensible player in the team in terms of the influence he has, although he doesn't have the pace to back it. And that was in a way that Paintel did not. So he'll have to resolve the issue as to whether he wants that extra layer of protection for Dennis Odoi, or he wants the penetrative runs of Paintel, because somehow in the offensive dynamic, the team doesn't seem to have figured out a way of utilizing Inaki to the fullest. Like I remember reading your frustration on Twitter. Can't they see the run? Can't they see the run? Every now and then he would make the run, and somebody would rather turn around and look for the more difficult options. And after so many games, they still have not figured that out. And that's one of the selection dilemmas he has to sort out on the right-hand side. I hear that although he was limping after the Egypt game, Ashimero seems to be okay, and so he will play in the middle of the park. So I think quite apart from that, I'm not expecting that he will make any other changes within the team, perhaps apart from the substitutes that he would bring on later in the game.
All right, Sam, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll speak sometime before or after the game. Hopefully, it should be a result that makes all of us happy as Ghanaians and fans of the Black Stars.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
For having me, and all the best.
All right, thank you, Sam. So that was Sammy Bartels.